Hello, Max Wright here, and a few days ago I made a video called Bernie Sanders Exposed, and to be honest, I don't know a lot about Bernie Sanders. It was just an interview I saw with him, and he just espoused one thing after the other from the socialist doctrine, which I just know are going to be absolutely disastrous for poor people. So I made this video, Bernie Sanders Exposed, put it out there, and not surprisingly, a lot of Bernie Sanders fans watched it and rebutted it in the comments. And so I'm going to go through a few of those comments, the ones that I think are worthy, and we'll just go through them now. So, Burning Rationalists says, if you are opposed to companies bribing politicians, Sanders is your best choice. He is the candidate championing the cause against Citizens United decision. So, yes, Burning Rationalists, I absolutely am against companies bribing politicians. And here's why I think Sanders is wrong. A little bit of catch up for everybody. Citizens United was a Supreme Court decision which basically meant that you could do unlimited and anonymous donations to political campaigns and super PACs and things like that. So here's my thoughts on Citizens United. It's a little bit similar. When the internet kind of came out, obviously one of the little schisms in that world is that it really brought to the forefront exactly how much pedophilia was going on in the world. Now, it's not to say that there wasn't any pedophilia going on in the world before that, but this internet and the pedophile's ability to share videos and images and whatever else, and then there was like video evidence of it that the rest of the world could see, and it really brought into the limelight exactly how horrific this is. The Citizens United is a perfect example of that. It's not as if that there wasn't, corruption before Citizens United decision. There's been corruption ever since there's been governments. What it did is it brought into the limelight. You could really, there was no need for the people bribing politicians anymore to hide that, not their dollar amounts anyway. You can actually see how much money goes into that political machinery. And so now it's brought it out as a debate and a point of conversation. And sadly, the knee-jerk reaction is from and this is a result of decades and generations of government-funded schooling. We don't appreciate the degree to which when you go to a government-funded school and a government-run school that you are indoctrinating the belief that, well, when there's a problem, you just make a law and magically everything happens. You make the law that sounds good, you think it's going to address the problem, but it very rarely does. I mean, a great example is like people who advocate, marijuana being illegal or stuff. You got to think of prisons, right? They get strip searched and cavity searched and roll called, and every single day there's, the cells are emptied out, and still under these incredible conditions of oversight, still there is drugs in every single prison in the country. And just passing a law doesn't just make it so. So it sounds like Bernie and I completely agree that we want to get the money out of politics. And he's telling you, I'm going to pass a law that's going to get it out, and it's going to happen. It's not. It's not going to happen. On his other issues, what he's a big fan of is big government. He's going to raise taxation, he's going to raise welfare. There's going to be more and more money passing through the hands of politicians. They're going to take more of it out of the private sector. It's going to go through government, and they're going to give it back in various different forms and whatever else. What that's going to do is it's going to increase the incentive for bribery. See, that's the only way you can destroy it. The only way you can get the money out of politics is when the incentive to bribe politicians is not there. And you may say Bernie's, he's different, he's wonderful. It doesn't matter. Bernie's not going to live forever. Let's say he is wonderful and he's incorruptible. Maybe those people exist. I doubt if they exist, but maybe they exist, right? He's not going to be president forever, but what he's going to do is expand the power of government, and in the next president, or the next president, or the next president, and it might be someone you dislike, it might be a Republican, but now he's in control of this purse with so much money in it. And of course, the bribery will just follow. It always does. So trying to get the money out of politics by changing a Supreme Court decision on whether or not they're allowed to show it or not is completely irrelevant and a fool's errand. The only way you can successfully do it is to destroy the incentive, and the only way to do that is to reduce the size and power of government. The less money that flows through politicians' hands, the less corruption there will be, and it's that simple. Bernie goes on to say, taxes are not theft. Theft is taking something illegally. If the law allows taxes, then they are not theft. One might object to them from a variety of reasons, but they are not theft. If you allow words to be defined by what a politician says, then the words are going to change definition every few years. It's like, thanks to Citizens United, what amounted to corrupting the political process 20 years ago is now not corrupting the political process. And so you can't use those definitions. You have to use consistent, rational definitions of words that we all agree. When I say theft, what I mean is when you take something that is not yours, it belongs to somebody else, and you can do it via force, threat of force, or fraud. In any of those instances, when you take something that is not yours, that is theft. I don't care if the government sanctions it or not. If you let politicians define words, then, during the Nazi Holocaust, then murder isn't murder. So let's be rational and let's use the words as they're defined, not by politicians, but by the dictionary. You compared Bernie to being like every other politician. However, this is not true. You said, and I'm paraphrasing, presidential candidates promise to help the middle class and rein in the rich, and when they get into office, they don't do it because they get corrupted. Yes, I did say that. That paraphrasing is correct. And listen, it is entirely possible that Bernie Sanders is this one wonderful shining star who's impossible to corruption. That is absolutely possible, and so I'll address that. But just before I do, many of the Bernie supporters, they were also Obama supporters. They were the ones who were, crying in the streets. It's like, oh yes, finally, hope and change. Finally, we've got this guy who's going to help the little guy. And on President Obama's watch, this is just after the 2008 financial crisis. We've got, LIBOR rigging, hundreds of billions of dollars stolen by big bankers. Not one single person goes to jail. We've got commodities market rigging. We've got gold and precious metals market rigging. All of these markets are just rigged, and no one is going to jail. And if you were a person who, supported Obama on these grounds back then, at least have the humility to say that I could be wrong about Bernie as well. But let's just take it for face value. Let's say Bernie is a champion and beyond corruption. There's two problems. One, Bernie's not going to live forever. And if he expands the power of government, then the next person might be corrupted. Maybe it'll be a Republican president, and they will get corrupted. So you don't want to grant these premises just because you have a nice guy in front of you. This stuff sets precedents which last, for generations. Secondly, although I did make that statement during that initial video, the vast majority of the video was set out specifically talking about his policies and how they are destructive to poor people. Even if I grant the premise that he genuinely wants to help poor people, the arguments are still laid out that his policies are going to be extremely destructive to both the poor and middle classes. They're actually in favor of the rich, whether he knows it or not. Zagembo says, hey dude, I don't understand when it's talked about redistribution of wealth. How come no one considers workers' contribution in creating wealth? I think that in most cases, worker contribution is larger than $7.25 per hour. That's one of the things that are behind Bernie's vision. Consider this also. So I absolutely agree that workers' contribution is definitely above $7.25 or whatever it is their wage is getting, by definition. There is no business owner, entrepreneur out there who's going to pay somebody $7.25 per hour if they're only contributing $4 per hour of value. So without any shadow of a doubt, I agree with you that workers are contributing more than $7.25 per hour or whatever it is their wages are. My question for you is, are you considering the value that the entrepreneur brings to the employee? You see, most people fall to the fallacy of the worker who creates the widget or the good that's sold into the marketplace, and the ones who actually touch the product, they're all the magic, and everything else is just, they're just hanger-oners. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is how it actually works. Let's take the example of a factory worker, making widgets in a factory. And now at any point, he can quit his job, and what he can do is he can go and make those widgets at home and sell them into the marketplace. Now, if he does that, what I know is that he's going to earn less than $7.25 per hour. Because if he was going to earn more than $7.25 per hour, he would go and do it. So he obviously, let's just pick a number just for round numbers' sake. Let's say working by himself, working from home, he's going to earn $5 an hour making widgets and as a self-employed person. Okay, there's Mr. Entrepreneur over there. He comes along and says, look, I'm really good at sales and marketing and distribution channels and all this kind of stuff. You're probably not good at that, Mr. Widget Maker. I suck at what you do. You suck at what I do. Let's team up together and work together. And together, we can earn about $20 per hour, okay? Let's split it 50-50 and we can both be earning $10 an hour instead of the $5 per hour we were earning by ourselves. Now, if that's where the conversation ends and the worker agrees, great, you have a partnership. Both people, give up time with their family and their friends and their social time to go and apply their skills, be that widget making or sales and marketing and distribution and raising funds and keeping the books, etc. Whatever your skills are, you give up time from your family and you go and do those skills. Now, to create a larger pie than what would be there if there was just the two individuals working together, and they split it 50-50. I don't think anyone's going to get upset with that. But here's the catch, and I've been in this situation many times. Often the employee replies, figuratively, well, No, look, I'm not really interested in taking that risk because I can't wait to get paid until after the customer buys the product. I don't know if this product is going to sell. Plus, I don't have any tools at home. I need someone to buy me tools. I need someone to give me resources. And so I can't do this deal. What I want to do is I want to get paid a guaranteed wage up front. When I start work at 9 o'clock on Monday, I want the clock to be ticking and I want to start getting paid that day. If the product I produce doesn't sell and the market doesn't want it, I don't want to take on that risk. So what I'm offering you, Mr. Entrepreneur, I'm not going to take 50-50 in this deal and we'll be proper partners. I'm going to take the guarantee and the certainty of getting paid every single week whether this product is sold or not, and I want you to take all that risk. I understand that you're taking more risk than me, so I'm going to not get as much as 50-50 in this relationship. I might get $7 per hour. Now that's way better than the $5 per hour I was getting by myself. So I'm still glad that you offered me this deal. I just can't do the 50-50 deal. I'm going to take the guarantee and the certainty of the wage. Mr. Entrepreneur says, okay, fine, let's do it that way. They now have an employee-employer relationship. Now I can tell you, I've been a serial entrepreneur for coming up 15 years now. I've had many, many businesses, and almost without exception, I would love for most employees to step up and say, I want to be a partner. I've offered it to pretty much all of them. As a general premise, they don't want the risk. And I get it. It's really, really hard. I have been in instances where I have worked for months and months, working 80 hours a week and not taking a penny in salary. In fact, the business was going backwards and I had to come out of my savings to support the business just so the employees who were working 40 hours a week could get their salaries, whether the product sold or not. But I've also been on the other end of the spectrum where I systemize the business so well and so efficiently that I can go on holidays for 6 months and I earn 10 times what the employees all earn together. I've been in that situation. It is a tremendous amount of risk. It is a tremendous amount of responsibility, and there needs to be a tremendous reward on the upside, or else I just wouldn't do it. And if I don't do it, if this example I say holds true where the employee was earning $5 by themselves, but combined with me, they're now earning $7, well, every single one of those employees, the quality of their life, the standard of living they have just jumped up 40% as a result of being involved in this relationship. And remember, I offered them the partnership. They could have had all the risks. They could have had all the upside. It would have meant going without a salary for months during the startup phase. Yeah, absolutely, that's what it would have meant. And they didn't want it. Now, some people will say, yeah, look, maybe during the good times, entrepreneurs can get 10x. Okay, fine. But what about these ridiculous CEO bonuses where, the CEOs are getting like 5,000 times the salary of the individual workers? That's just not fair. Slow this down. First of all, fair doesn't actually mean anything, but let me actually paint the picture of why it is fair. Let's just say this entrepreneur, pretend there's no middle management, just so there's a real, there's one CEO earning 5,000 times everybody else, and then all the worker bees. Let's take that example. This one entrepreneur, what he's doing, there's 5,000 employees, and he's increased their quality of life by 40%. Now, if each one of them increase his quality of life by 40%, well, you very quickly approach 5,000x. Now, a few caveats here. When a CEO runs a business into the ground and the government bails them out and the guy gets a big bonus, that's bullshit. That's crony capitalism. I'm not defending that in any way, shape, or form. But in a purely free market example, if the business goes broke, then both the CEO and the employees, they're all out of a job. They've all got to go and find a way to be more productive because the market isn't appreciating what they're doing. But in the instance where the market is appreciating what they're doing, you have millions of people who are ecstatic with the value they're receiving, and so they voluntarily give money to the business in exchange for the goods and services they receive. The employees are ecstatic with their risk-free option of getting a wage every single day, whether their product sells or not, and where the entrepreneur takes this huge risk on the condition of a huge upside, then it's a win-win-win across the board, and everyone gets proportional to what they put in. Now, I know a lot of people are going to struggle with this. It's like, there's just no way a person can possibly be worth 5,000 times more. To that I say, remember, the evil business owners, the investors who funded this business, the same ones who you argue would want to screw down the guy on the factory floor and pay him the least amount as possible, they don't suddenly become different human beings and want to pay the CEO the most they can pay possible. Those investors want to pay the CEO the least amount as well. Well, like the price of everything, it's determined by supply and demand. That means that the investors who are trying to pay the CEO the least amount of money they possibly can in order to get a great result in a growing business, what they are choosing from a very, very small pool of people who have the necessary skills, leadership, vision, entrepreneurial talent in order to manage thousands of people and make this company work. The only way you can possibly reduce the salaries you're paying these mega CEOs with massive salaries is to increase the number of them. Now, when you consider that and you realize the fact that these people are generally hated, the vast majority of ignorant people just think they're parasites and don't do anything and don't appreciate the talent, don't appreciate the skill, don't appreciate the value they're adding to their employees by raising their standard of living, don't appreciate the value they're offering the customers by delivering goods and services at a great price. When you consider the fact that they generally work incredibly hard, working 80 hours a week during their 20s and 30s, I mean, it is a huge sacrifice, giving up their weekends to go to leadership training and to go to sales this and management that. It's an incredible give up to acquire those skills, to have that much skill where you can contribute that much to those many people. It's an incredible delayed gratification that takes decades. In fact, I have a good friend who's about 15 years down this path of investing in this. He got a degree in accounting, went and worked for a top 4 accounting firm, and he said, I'm that guy. I'm working 80 hours a week for these guys. And for the big 4 accounting firms, he got a pretty mediocre salary. He's been in it for 15 years, working 80 hours a week and pretty much hating his life. And he's doing it all because he believes that on the other end, there is going to be this huge upside. And if you take away that upside, he is not doing it. He's going to be going out. He's not working 80 hours a week in his 20s. He's going to be having beers with his friends of an evening, not going to courses on his weekend, and that skill set will be lost. And to go back to the example, if that skill set is lost, then those workers who had their lifestyle increased by 40% when they started earning $7 an hour instead of the $5 an hour they were earning when they were working by themselves, those 5,000 people, their quality of life will degrade. It will go back by that 40%. Because you stole the upside for the CEO who invests decades of time and effort to acquire the skills to be able to help all of those employees and raise their standard of living. I know that's not the narrative you guys want to hear, but that is how it works.